Good evening. My name is Cherie.
My name is Chris.
And we're Technomadia. And this evening we are joined by our special guests,
VIPs.
Nina.
And Paul.
And we are wheeling it.
Yes.
This evening's topic is lithium batteries for RVs. And we're all presenting them because we all happen to have lithium batteries in our RVs.
We've had them for well over 5 years now, and then they came along and copied basically our exact setup, made it this much bigger just so they can have bragging rights.
Since we've had it since February.
Yeah, they're newbies, so lithium newbies, but we can all talk about the joys of lithium.
So this evening we'll share with you a bit about lithium, about our setups, and we'll be doing our 5-year analysis of how ours have held up, because we have likely one of the first lithium systems for RVs that was out there. So we have one of the oldest ones probably. Just a heads up, none of us are consider ourselves experts. We are not in the... Not to a point that people can ask questions.
No, not for hire.
None of us are professionally involved with lithium batteries or solar. We're not here to sell you anything. We don't get affiliates. We're not involved with any of the businesses that install them. We're just sharing our personal experiences with them.
Right.
That's the same is true for us.
And none of us are for hire later to talk about
it. We all get people writing us very, very long emails saying, here's my questions about lithium, and can you answer them, and can you design my system, or can you fix this problem I have? That's what the people who you pay to install them are there for, not us. So please don't send us those kind of emails. It's really kind of awkward.
Sore point.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
Yeah, it has, after several of these emails, we did have to actually put a notification on our lithium series, which if you want to follow along, we do have a very extensive series at technomadia.com/lithium that has tons and tons of details about lithium, the pros, the cons, cost analysis, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your series was basically what we used to start
And then she
off
copied
with.
it.
And then I made a better blog. No. Just kidding. No.
More flowery languages.
More flowery languages.
Hers has unicorns in it. So.
Yeah, but we have a little lithium series as well, but not nearly as extensive as these guys.
Theirs is awesome.
Theirs is awesome.
And more current and more up to date.
Yes, because
ours
is 5 years.
Right.
No. We've kept it up to date, but it's mostly old.
No.
So let's
between the two of us, we have stuff.
So first, we're going to do a brief recap on what lithium batteries are, what their advantages are over more traditional RV battery systems like lead acid and AGM. And I'm going to let you guys talk. I'm just going to moderate.
Okay.
Who wants to start?
One of you talk.
Okay, so
down the line.
Well, lithium batteries are the new hotness. Lead batteries have been basically around mostly unchanged since the 18-somethings.
1880s.
The same basic car starting batteries. They're mostly 6 volts, but then they went to 12 volts and roughly in the 50s or so, and they hadn't really changed much at all. There's AGM came along, which is just a slight variation on the old style lead batteries, some significant advantages, but it's all still the same basic stuff. So lithium is the new hotness. It's a different chemical makeup. You're used to it in your laptops and your phones,
pads.
And for better or worse, it's got a mixed reputation because it lets you get a lot of power in a smaller space. Sometimes it lets you have your Samsung explode in your hands and set fires on airplanes, but
slightly different chemistry.
That
is key.
Is lithium batteries? That's one element of the new soup, the ingredients they make the batteries out of. And the ones that finally made it practical to build big batteries for RVs was lithium iron phosphate, where it's not nearly as energy dense as the batteries in a laptop or a phone, but it's not nearly as potentially explosive. In fact, theoretically, the lithium iron phosphate batteries, they can smolder and get really hot, but they're not going to burst into flame because they're full of iron, too. Yes.
Just some of the advantages of lithium over, I guess the first one is size and weight.
Show and tell.
This is a lithium cell. These are the GBS cells that we all have in our RVs.
Same ones.
There are other manufacturers. Yes. Our bank has 20 of these.
20 of those.
How many does yours have? You've got
12.
Yes.
No,
you have more than us.
Yes, we have
one stack.
600 amp hours.
No.
Oh, yours 100 amp hour cells, right?
200 amp hour cells.
So they got the 12 200 amp hours.
So we have double that size.
So this is 100 amp hours at 3.2 volts.
Right. We have 200 amp hour cells at 3.2 volts.
So in our battery system, they're together.
Right.
To create a 12 volt system.
Right.
And you
Right.
can configure them all ways. We have a friend who's doing a 24 volt system right now.
Yeah.
Them, so.
And 48 volt systems are also possible and very, very good. And then electric vehicles often have 144 volt systems or 96 volt systems or high voltage systems. But most RVs are already set up and geared around 12 volts. So that's where you start with. And so a 12 volt system made up of these is 4 of them. That's 4 3.2 volt cells. A lead acid battery has actually got 6 cells. If you ever look at your flooded lead acid batteries in your RV, you'll see 6 little holes to add water,
volts.
and they're a little bit over 2 volts, 2.1.
Yeah.
So they're, the different chemistries come up with a different voltage, and there we go. It's like a cereal box, and it's very light.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's about.
I mean, it's not so light that I'm going to toss it to you. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not that light.
Yeah, but we calculated. I think for our system, I mean, we would have weighed about 480 pounds with lead acid, and we got down to about 165 pounds.
Yeah, if we had 400 amp hours, usable, 400 amp hours of lead acid AGMs, so 4 GPL 16, GPL L16Ts.
Big honking
batteries, that's 480 pounds. And our system that has 480 amp hours of usable capacity weighs 165 pounds.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter and smaller in size too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You fit it in your underwear drawer.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to give up my underwear drawer, but we fit it in the underwear drawer, and the old lead acid would not have fit.
Well,
we would have to have given up the pajamas, basically I'd be
the
naked.
pants.
We had to toss the cats at that point. No more cats.
And that is actually one of the advantages of lithium is that they are basically inert unless they happen to be on fire. They do not off gas.
You're gonna make people scared here.
Oh no. But yeah, so whereas like flooded lead acid batteries, you can't have them indoors. They put out
that's true.
hydrogen gas while they're charging. You do not want hydrogen gas in your underwear drawer in your bedroom. You need to have them in a vented, well ventilated chamber. AGM batteries, they don't. They're sealed batteries, but still, they have the other downsides. But the lithiums, you couldn't put them indoors when you're designing how you want to add them to your RV, and it is actually a big plus to do that because you really would prefer to keep them climate controlled.
Absolutely.
As we learned.
Yes.
We'll get to that part in the wrap up. So other advantages is they can take a lot of charge quickly.
Very
So if you're
fast.
running them off a generator, or if you're trying to charge them off a generator or a wall plug, you're only limited by your charging capacity of your
You're charging
inverter.
it, basically.
It is so sweet. I mean, basically, you turn on the generator and you can just pump in as many amp hours as you can possibly put in. And within a half hour, an hour, you've already got a decent charge.
Well, it depends on what your charging capacity is. Because a lot of RVs have really dinky chargers. So you'd have to keep this in mind of upgrade your charger to match your battery. But regular lead batteries, when they're charging, they kind of go like this, and then they plateau, and then that last 20% takes forever to charge.
Yeah.
Whereas the lithium batteries can charge basically almost up to like 98% before they start to have that plateau. So they charge very quickly. And then the big downside of the lead batteries is if they don't get to 100% charge, that's very bad for them. So if you are living off grid and you've got to run your generator once a week to make sure and run your generator for that long 6 hours of it barely doing anything other than topping off your batteries, you got to do that just to keep your batteries healthy. Or if you have a solar system, you have to have enough solar to make sure you always get up to 100% just to keep your batteries healthy. Whereas lithium batteries are actually healthier and happier if they're left around 50 to 80 to 90%. You don't actually want to leave them at 100% and lingering there.
And they don't need to get to a full charge regularly. Lead acid, you have to get to that 100% to equalize them every so often.
Right.
Yeah.
The lithium, you don't. They're perfectly happy.
Very happy.
That makes them a great complement to solar, where at the end of the day, it might be cloudy or the sun's going down, and if you're only at 87%, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't even have to stress.
Yeah, our batteries have been at 40 to 50% for 4 or 5 days because we're in shade, and
It's not a problem.
charger's been off. And they're fine. They're happy.
And that's another point is to make into it is with lead acid, you're probably used to not being really able to go down below about 50% of your rated capacity. Lithium, you're very safe at going down to 20%. You can probably go further. A lot of us don't like to push it because if you get to 0%, you could kill the pack.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
So-
I think you guys have a hard cutoff at 20%. We have a hard cutoff at 20%.
Oh, well, ours has a cutoff when the EMS detects a
Right.
voltage of 2.7 volts on one of the cells.
That's
so,
what ours.
Yeah.
Which is not percentage based. That's basically its emergency. Save me.
Yeah, save me. Yeah.
Save me.
Don't pull the
alert.
plug.
Pull its own plug.
Yeah.
So other advantages is like you can put a lot of power into them really quickly based on what your charger is. You can take a lot of power out of them, like running an air conditioner, a
Running
microwave.
microwaves.
When you do that on lead acid, you have something called puckered loss, in which you're actually using more of your amperage to get that power.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of lose capacity. It's like you had this nice, say, 400 amp hour lead acid battery, and you're drawing an air conditioner, and suddenly you only have half that capacity because of the loss.
Right. Most lead acid batteries are rated at their 20-hour rate. So they're assuming that you're going to spend 20 hours to go from full to empty on the batteries. That's a very slow usage. If you're running something like air conditioners and stuff, that might actually be drawing enough power to suck your entire battery bank dry in just a few hours. And lead batteries will be, hands up in the air screaming, saying you're hurting me. Whereas lithium's, even a small lithium battery can put out a lot of current and handle demands like that.
Yeah, I think in our old system, I think we ran the AC once on the old system.
You had it wired that way?
It was really hard.
We didn't have it wired that way.
Yeah.
Oh no!
No,
We ran the
batteries?
microwave.
Yeah.
Sorry,
The
we did have the microwave on it,
killed.
and the microwave is always it'll suck it right down.
But when we got lithium, we rewired, so now we run the front AC off our lithium batteries.
Right, we have the AC. We actually have the washer dryer on the lithium batteries. We have pretty much everything on the lithium batteries because it really they can take it.
Yeah, and as do we. And you have that's not magical. You need an inverter that can put out that power and convert
you do.
it. So
You do.
So we have a 3,000 watt inverter that's capable of 100 amp charging and stuff. So that's a lithium battery system is really only as capable as the inverter you're pairing it with. So something to keep in mind. It's not just swap in new batteries. You got to think your entire electrical system through.
Right.
Another advantage of lithium is extended cycle life. So yes, the cost of lithium is a lot higher than lead acid. We were looking at the current cost. If we were all installing a lead acid AGM, I think was what we were comparing them to right now to meet the same capacity that we have in our lithium, we would be paying double for the cells.
Lithium batteries.
Yeah,
over what
That's about
thereabouts.
double.
However, in theory, we should all be getting substantially more life cycles, and we estimated we would be getting between 2,000 and 5,000 cycles out of our pack. Is that kind of a number you guys use as well?
Yeah, we've been using 2,000, just makes the math
That's
easy.
the low end. And a lead
That's the
acid
low end.
on the low end is at 500. So 4 times or more the capacity. We'll talk about
the life cycle.
Yeah,
life
we will
cycle.
talk about what that's meaning for us 5 years later and how they've held up. And hopefully the lessons we've learned will help those installing lithium now make better choices. That
And
will
it wraps
actually,
back to the underwear drawer, actually.
yes,
Topic,
yes. Install your
It
batteries.
all comes back to Nina's underwear in the end.
Give up wearing underwear, and your lithium will last longer.
Yeah.
I
it's
think
amazing.
that's a good
that's the
slogan.
tagline.
Slogan.
If we got that in the SEO for this video, we'll get a lot
Yeah,
more
we'll get a lot
YouTube
of
hits.
Yeah. I think so.
I definitely will keyword that one. With this. Okay. All right. Wasted energy, fewer placement issues. So let's go ahead and talk about the placement issues. When we did ours, you talked about it a little bit. We were told you can put them anywhere, and that doesn't turn out to be necessarily true. They do take cold very well. Lead acid does not take cold well. You lose a lot of capacity.
Sort of.
Yeah, you can't charge them when they're cold.
Right.
But
So there's one big catch with cold.
Yeah, you cannot charge lithium when you're below freezing.
But you
Right.
can use them.
I mean,
you can use them.
And that depends actually on the variant, because within the lithium iron phosphate batteries, there's still several manufacturers, and they have some different variants between manufacturers. So the
Talk to your
Winston's-
manufacturer.
Yeah, the Winston cells that Balcon were selling could charge below freezing, but most of the other ones have the limitation: don't charge them below freezing.
Right.
Just like don't feed gremlins after midnight. It's bad.
And when we did our pack 5 years ago, we bought ours from Elite Power Solutions of the GBS cells that we showed you earlier. There were no warnings at that point about heat in their impact on, and we did, and we'll talk about that.
Well, they had a maximum range of heat, and we knew, oh god, 150 degrees. That's we'll never get that hot. But talk about it now.
Oh, sure, why not? We're here.
So So in time, we discovered because our batteries aged a lot faster, particularly in the first 3 years, and we're trying to figure out, puzzling through some of the reasons why, and there are several, and I think it was a combination of factors, but one of them was we had our batteries in a same small chamber with our inverter that didn't have the greatest ventilation. It would never get much over 150. It would never get anywhere close to 150 degrees, but in the summer it would get up to 120 degrees in there. Right. And we discovered, talking with Elite later, that they'd done more testing, and the batteries, once they were at 97, they were rated at 80 degrees or something, or 77 degrees, and at 97 degrees they would lose half their capacity.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And at 107, presumably another half again. So the heat was actually a real life killer.
So after we saw that degradation, we did move our pack to a more ventilated bay, and we'll share how that's done. So that's one reason why you guys decided to give up underwear. So
yes.
Right. So we
See, it all comes back to underwear.
Because of their lesson that we learned from, we're like, the batteries are going inside.
Yeah.
So that was one of the design trade-offs that we made, is that we wanted the batteries inside to temperature control them, basically.
And that's and kind of the nice thing about lithium, going back to the fact that they don't off vent or anything like that, is you can put them inside anywhere. I mean, you don't, and you can put them in any orientation. They don't have to be upright. They don't have, any orientation anywhere inside, you can do that.
So our cells are lying flat in our bedroom, in our back closet.
Yeah, and we've had a really good temperature control in there. I mean, not that much variation at all. We don't get a lot of, high heat.
If it's below freezing or above 90 in that room, something's wrong.
That's our bedroom.
You're probably cranky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
We're crankier than the lithium,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's a problem.
Yes, and we have ours installed like this. And ours are currently in a bay in our bus, but we put them in a very large bay where our holding tanks are also at. And there's ventilation in that bay, and the holding tanks kind of act as a heat sink to take the heat away.
Yep.
And it's
black body.
Yeah, that
Yes.
bay doesn't get super hot, and
It's
also
also
it's and in the winter that is a bay that we have the freeze protection in, so we'll keep it above freezing as well. So so that bay has got a lot better range of temperatures, and so that's a much better place to be installed at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that gives you an overview of the advantages of lithium over lead acid. You can go back to either of our articles and read a ton more about that. Go ahead, and give a snapshot. What is your how many amp hours you have, and the makeup and stuff like that.
So
all the numbers you wrote down.
So we have 600 amp hours of lithium.
Yeah.
So at 12 volts, obviously. So it's 80% usable. So we have 480 amp hours of usable battery capacity, and it's stored in our bedroom, in our rear closet, in the old underwear drawer. Right under our inverter. So we also brought the inverter inside as well. So they're all really close together.
And that's something you're not happy with, is the inverter.
No, if we had to do it over again, we would leave the inverter outside. The inverter does generate a lot of heat.
When it's drawing high current, or
for example, when we're running the air conditioner off the batteries.
You're heating the inside and cooling it all at the same time.
So that's a slight design change we might
So the front
change.
AC is set to 70 running off the batteries, and the batteries are at 90 plus degrees in the back. So.
It's kind of not the intended impact that you wanted there.
So that's a slight change we'd make, but yeah, I mean, other than that, it's been fabulous. I mean,
it's been fantastic. We have them set at so we have our absorbed. That's too technical. Go ahead. We have our absorbed voltage set at 14 volts, and we have our float voltage set at 13.4. There, Chris and Sri's setup is a little bit different, and it works great. It's a little bit lower than when we first had it installed, because we were balancing the cells, and now we set a little bit lower, and we'll
Should we explain what balancing is? Because
that's
most people have no idea what that might be.
You don't do that with other things.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so balancing cells, and this technically applies to lead acid, but it's not really a critical thing. Nobody even thinks about this with lead acid batteries. But with lithium batteries, you want all your cells to be basically in the exact same state of charge. So if you've got, in our case, 20 of these in the battery, you want them all to be equally balanced at same exact voltage. That can get a little tricky to do. First off, you want to do it and have like a matched set of batteries when you first install them. the manufacturers have gotten apparently a lot better about that from the days we got ours. We're pretty sure some of our cells were runts in the litter, and that's also some of our problem over time. But then you want to keep them balanced over time. And one way, quite a few people actually run their lithium systems without any sort of active balancing. They'll just go in every so often and just make sure they're staying balanced. And people have gone years without their balance really changing much at all. But a lot of other systems have active balancers that will balance as you charge. The way the Elite batteries do it is they have a little circuit board that goes across the positive and negative, and when the voltage gets to 3.55 volts, which works out to be, 3.55 times 4 is 14.2, right? Yeah.
14.2. Right.
Yeah, so at 14.2, as you charge up to that kind of like your bulk charge spot, that caps each one of the cells at that and kind of holds in there so as they'll all reach the same top point. And which is great active balancing, top balancing. One of the other things that aged our batteries and was a design flaw that we ran across because we were pioneers is our balancing circuit kicks in at 3.7 volts, not 3.55, which means the battery is basically overcharging itself before it gets to the balancing point. So our batteries never balanced ideally well. Elite, in part because of our feedback in discovering this problem, to redesign their balancing boards down to 3.55 volts, which is a much smarter place to be. So that's what balancing is, and that's why you always hear people mentioning balancing their lithiums. Yeah.
So we balance it every once in a while by raising the voltage a little bit.
Yeah, there's actually not been much change at all in our balance.
So we're on 10 months. We haven't balanced since we sort of installed them, and we're at less than 1% difference across the cells.
Yeah, and we can actually see it in our little display. We can see the voltage on each of the cells. So yeah.
And because we can't balance effectively unless I do a very manual, slow process, I pay attention to is ours staying in balance, and they have actually stayed in balance pretty well by themselves. You know, when they slip out of balance and I bring them back in balance, they're only a little bit out of balance with each other. So that's balancing circuitry.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you now give an overview of our system? Just a quick rundown. We have 500 amp hours.
Less than us.
They had to one up us, 100 up us.
Yes.
Key design criteria.
We ideally, when we set up, when we were doing our system, we ideally wanted to do 1,000 amp hours, but because the technology was so new, we were on a limited time frame to get them done because we decided basically a week before going to Burning Man that we needed batteries in our bus and decided to build our bank on a whim. In a rush. So we didn't have a lot of time.
Just a few days.
Yep. In fact,
we did it ourselves.
And we built our pack ourselves. We didn't hire someone to do it. You guys hired Precision RV.
Precision RV, Marvelous Marvin did our install.
Yeah, he did our design and install. So yeah, he was great. He's a lithium expert by now. Yeah,
we did our own.
Something popping up on the screen. What is it?
Stand by, please.
Connection is going kind of sluggishly. Hopefully it's just a temporary glitch.
All right, so ours, these all come kind of banded together and 4 cells together with straps and stuff. So we spent literally 8 hours unscrewing and rescrewing and pressing our pack together.
It's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier now. A lot of these companies that are doing the installations, they build the pack for you or have it built for you. And Elite and some of the others are doing a lot better job with it. So we were kind of pretty new to it. But we decided to go with 500 because it was so unproven for motorhomes and RVs at that time. We just didn't want to invest that much in lithium to be guinea pigs. We're willing to do it 500.
And in hindsight, we're very glad that we didn't.
Because we learned a lot of lessons in our first year.
And the industry learned. And the things have improved and gotten better. So I'm glad. I still wish we had 1,000 amp hour system. When we ever redo our system, we're going to go for something big like that. So our ideal goal would be able to run an air conditioner overnight if we're Walmart docking or something. We just want to stay cool and dehumidified. All off battery power would be awesome.
Yes. Yeah. It would be really nice not to worry because we're with our capacity loss. We started with 400 usable amp hours is what we considered our pack, and with the loss that we've had, We definitely do, and we have to get conservative if we're not getting great sun during the day. And now that the days are getting shorter,
Right.
it is becoming something where we have to manage our battery usage a lot
little bit more.
closer than we had to.
And I mean, even I would say if we don't have a residential fridge, for example, and so a lot, we cook and everything off propane. If we had a residential fridge, if we had an electric cooktop, we would probably have installed the biggest system.
Yeah, we would need. I would install the 1,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're all electric, so we have a Danfoss compressor. We have a marine electric fridge that runs off 12 volt, and we use an induction hob for our stovetop cooking, and we have a convection microwave oven. We have no propane for our cooking in our bus.
Yeah, so we do all those things off of lithium and very
and
happily.
for extended periods of time without generators or hookups.
And right now our capacity, we don't even have to think about batteries much for about 2 days if we're parked in the shade and not having hookups. But it would be nice to be able to go much longer than that.
It'd be nice to be able to say, hey, I want to make this meal that involves like
5 pots.
that has multiple things. So when we're off grid, is we're thinking more about quick heat and eat things, as opposed to like big produce.
Right.
It's just that when I say we're being conservative, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we've really loved the extra capacity. I mean, we've seen the same thing. We've been able to be in shade for multiple days and being able to run off our lithium.
Yeah,
We've been able to run all our equipment off our lithium.
You can tell an example of this summer in.
In Michigan, yeah.
We were in Sleeping Bear Dunes, on the northwest coast of the Mitt.
Yeah, and we accidentally booked ourselves into a no generator loop. We didn't know it was a no generator loop, and we ended up in a site with basically almost all shade.
Yeah, pretty much no sun, a little bit of sun at midday. And we were 4 days, no generator, and we could do pretty much what we wanted without any issues.
It's been
that
really
was a true corner case that worked out fantastic.
Personally, I like to always pretend when we're camping that we're in a no generator
Yeah.
loop. That's
Except for the generator running next to you.
Yeah.
we have a
There's music
generator,
for
but
that.
we pretend we don't have it unless we really need it,
Right.
and
Ours
that's
is-
part of
ours
what
is-
lithium is the best about.
Yeah. And have you shared your charging profiles?
So our charging profiles, again, the original recommendations would be considered overcharging the battery. So with the Elite and everybody else has dialed down what they consider charging, a good charging profile. Right now, our charging profile is, with the inverter, we charge to a bulk charge of 14.15 volts. Then we float at 13.2 volts, and we charge at 120 amp charge current. And then with our solar charger, we have a slightly higher, we go to 14.2 volts and then float at 13.4. So that way the solar will take, even if we're plugged into shore power, the solar will still kind of take precedence a little bit and focus on keeping the battery topped up. And that seems to have been a good, healthy balance of charging.
Right. Yeah, ours is, we have the solar and the inverter set the same. We have a 125 amp charger. So pretty similar. I guess the big difference, our float voltage is a little bit higher, but I may change that now.
it is all about a little bit playing around.
Yeah, there's definitely some playing around. And the chargers are not pure lithium chargers. They're basically three-stage chargers.
Yes.
What inverter charger do you have?
We have the Magnum hybrid.
Yeah, the hybrid.
3012 3012, I think is the model.
The 3000.
MH3012.
Yeah.
So it's 3,000 watt output, 125 amp charger. It's a great product, very configurable.
And we have the Victron Multi Plus 3000 is what we want, because at the time 5 years ago that was the only hybrid or boosting inverter, and both of ours are that.
Nice.
And
You gotta have hybrid.
The Magnum came out after we did ours, because
several years later.
Yeah.
But what these boosters do, what these inverters do, is they can not only just take the battery and convert it to wall power, like 110, is when you're hooked into like a 15 amp power plug, and you want to run a high load like an air conditioner, which would normally blow a breaker if you were doing that. This will then combine the power of the shore or generator with
Your lithiums.
with the lithium, and so we can pretend like we're on full hookups all the time.
Pretty
50
much.
amps or-
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes your neighbor's garage extension cord seem like 50 amps.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, we basically, this entire summer, I think we've had 50 amp hookups
once.
Yeah, we don't even look at it.
But we basically never thought about it. We always have load support on, and so it's always like we have the extra.
With the Magnum, it's if the inverter's on, load support is on.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's like right now at this campground that we're at, we all have 50 amp hookups here. Our site, for privacy, we decided to pull it backwards so that we didn't have to look at the street because it's distracting when we're working to see people outside our window. So we turned around and we're running off an extension cord.
Down to 25 amps.
Dialed down, and if we need a high load, it just boosts from the batteries, and that gives us so much flexibility. When our engine needed rebuilding back in 2013, we were stuck in a parking lot. It was like 95 degrees most days, and all they could give us was a little 10 amp extension cord run across a very long distance. And the lithium hybrid thing, I mean, that saved us. Being able to get through 7 weeks of that living in a parking lot while the engine
I still can't
was
believe you went through 7 weeks. Yeah.
It was pretty intense, and if it hadn't been for that electrical system and the flexibility, we would have had to go and rent an apartment or something.
Because we were running our air conditioner all day, every day off load support just to survive. So wonderful,
invaluable having that.
Yeah, love the load support. Love it.
Okay.
Are you ready to talk about the 5 years?
So, hey, 5 years. Our batteries. Wow.
Yeah, so tell us.
5-year lithiversary.
Lithiversary.
Well, I guess it's gone past because that was August. But yeah. So went back and looked through all the notes of like how our batteries have aged. When they were a year old, I was able to drain 442 amp hours out of them.
And this is at our 400 amp hour capacity is what we considered them. But you did a full drain.
Yeah, it was a full drain until the battery throws its hands up and says, "Hey, I'm dying." At 2.5 years, we did a full drain down to 409, and I was like, "Whoa, that was a lot of aging in that first bit." 3.5, it was down to 378, and that's when we kind of re-engineered the system, got it in a much cooler place. At a little bit over 4 years, it was at 367, and at 5, it's 347. So it's now sliding at a slower pace down this age curve.
And you do expect some capacity loss just from aging and over time. What is the anticipated?
Oh, it's hard to say, and a lot of it is our batteries have an older chemistry that is. It has been significantly improved. Even though we both have the exact same cells, theirs are our Generation 2 cell. Right. That Elite has made a lot of improvements inside the cell itself and inside the chemistry. So ours has aged because of that. And I think, actually, because I've looked back at all our old notes, cell number 3 is always the first one to go off the cliff. So I think in our bank, we've got some runts, cells. And with a battery, if we've got 20 cells, and if one of them has less capacity, it brings down all the rest. Whichever one gets to empty first shuts down the system. So having 1 out of 20, which particularly 5 years ago, the odds were not nearly as good that you'll have such consistent quality across a batch. Having 1 out of 20 be a laggard means all 20 end up acting like laggards, particularly over time. So that's our current capacity. It's we consider our system, our safe usable capacity now about 300 to 315 amp hours. And we use that all the time. I mean, our regular usage, our regular cycle is around 250 amp hours over a day or two. And so we use our batteries very substantially. That's where they're at. They've definitely aged a lot more than the original math we calculated out said they should have.
Good lessons.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
Right. We ready to take questions, you think?
Sure.
Oh, that means we have to open up our
We need wine, though.
We need wine.
Yes.
Okay, have questions without wine.
Yes.
All right.
This is what I was waiting for.
This is the only reason we got her to get on camera.
We bought them tacos and offered them wine. It's like
I know, we're so easy.
They're cheap dates. All right. This evening this is from Westport Rivers Winery. It's a Pinot Noir. This was gifted to us by Scott and Jean McLeod, who have been viewers of these live chats for many, many years, I think. And we had finally had the opportunity, we were up in Massachusetts near Cape Cod, to meet them. And they brought us this bottle special. Well, they brought us 6 bottles that night. We kind of drank a few of them. But we saved this one because they said this is their favorite. And that's what we're going to have this evening.
Awesome.
So, tonight, as and thanks to Scott and Jean, I will let you do the honors on that.
Open it and we'll be back.
So we really, really appreciate this evening. Even before we started broadcasting, we already had several wine contributions. All of us, we're taking time out of our personal days to do these chats. If you enjoy them, we'd love your gratitude. Never hesitate to say thank you in comments or emails or things like that. And if you're feeling extra appreciative of the information that you're receiving this evening, we each do have a tip jar on our blogs. So you can go to wheelingit.us or technomadia.com. And actually, because we kind of copied each other's designs, it's on the bottom right-hand corner of every single page in each of our blogs. And please, we really, really appreciate those contributions. They keep us all inspired to keep sharing.
Right.
And, none of us are blogging for dollars or vlogging for dollars. But, if you want to show your appreciation back, it's a fabulous way.
Yes, and we love the wine, and it makes us happy.
Yeah, we do.
Because otherwise, the four of us would be having a great talk about lithium, but none of you would get to share in it.
That's true. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna pour myself. I'm drinking beer. I'll be right back.
Okay, we can't toast just quite yet.
Oh, we're going to sit here and wait?
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's a big bottle.
Wow, that is a big bottle.
Oh, you're having a Sex Panther.
Golden Sex Panther.
Okay,
Oh, you gotta show that on the...
Okay, I'm going to SEO that again because apparently that gets really interesting things. Sex Panther.
Yeah.
Golden Sex
So
Panther and
you
Girls
gotta
Without
show that.
Underwear.
So I am going to open a Golden Sex Panther.
Yeah.
Ta-da. It's a lemongrass and basil farmhouse saison with Brettanomyces.
We got it near Acetate,
Yeah.
actually.
Yes.
Yeah, we and
We
the
were
town
at
of
a couple
Berlin,
weeks
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, Burley Oak Brewing in Berlin, Maryland.
Yeah.
So this is the Golden Sex Panther and the Pantyless Nina Monster.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tell you,
All right.
things happen in this RV.
So we're going to be shifting into the Q&A mode, and I see that Patty has already queued up a bunch of your questions already, so thank you for those. We're going to concentrate on answering questions first about lithium and electrical systems, and then we'll kind of cut the archive there so that
Archive stays focused.
on this topic, and then we'll address any of the other topic questions that you have after that. So.
All right.
Hey, cheers. Oh,
Cheers,
That's a big
cheers.
head, your Sex Panther.
Sorry.
Right
I was in a hurry.
Cheers.
Cheers.
there.
And cheers to you.
Cheers. Thank
Cheers
you.
to you.
For
Thank
joining
you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for skipping the World Series. There's some sort of sports ball thing going on.
I
Oh, this is lovely.
Anybody tell me the score?
Oh my gosh.
That is
Nice.
delicious.
This is
Choice,
lovely.
Scott
Yeah,
and
this
Jean.
is really
Wow.
lovely.
Nice choice.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go back to these questions. I tried to look at them as they're coming in, tried to plant them so you guys would answer them. So
Okay.
hopefully I did a decent job with that. Okay. All right. Are there
That's really good.
so I knew this question was up is people we would recommend as installers of lithium batteries, solar and lithium.
So, the one thing is you can do it yourself, but be brave. Know what you're getting into if you do it yourself. Be a serious electrical geek hobbyist and willing to take on supporting yourself. But if you don't want to do that,
I think
then-
the top choices, AM Solar is they're in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
They're dealing with Victron, all Victron inverters and batteries, and
Yes,
then
and
they do solar. They're
so-
top for that.
So AM Solar actually has both kits that you can install yourself that give you up to a certain capacity, or for the more advanced systems, they will sell it only with their professional installation. So they've got two sets of stuff to go for. Top quality stuff, top quality things. We had been talking with AM Solar since we first did our system 5 years ago. They finally started to offer products about 2 years ago.
I
Or
think
a
they
year and a half,
shifted.
yeah.
Yeah, they kind of quietly shifted about the time we
Yeah.
got our solar done there.
Yeah.
Starlight Solar down in Yuma, Arizona. I believe they're still doing the same battery,
I think
cells
so,
here
yeah.
at the GBS.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a while as well, yeah.
And they're well respected. We've seen some of their installs and have been impressed
They
with
do
them.
very professional jobs.
You guys
And
use Marvelous Marvin.
Marvelous Marvin. He did our very first design back in 2010, and then when we decided to go lithium, he had actually already started working with lithium with other people.
And he
and-
uses the Elite GBS cells.
And
as
he
well.
uses the Elite GBS cells, and he will basically design your entire system and do the install. He does a fabulous job. I mean, there's a reason we used him twice. We really, really like
You
him.
did great.
And so precisionrv.com or prvsolar.com. I think he has 2 domain names right now, but that would be another choice.
And then now there's some
I think
RV
Lou
okay.
is doing them as well.
Okay.
I don't know his his information, but I know he has also worked with AM Solar and got the training on it. And he was down in Florida last winter. I do not know what his plans are.
Right.
So
Oh yeah, Marvin is in Casa Grande,
This winter.
Arizona
Yeah.
this winter.
yeah.
So
and
you
Marvin's
could always,
mobile as well, so you might be able
Yeah.
to hook up with him on the road
Yeah,
and other
yeah.
places. So I would start. One thing about AM Solar is they are in touch with a lot of these independent business folks that are doing installations, and they can sometimes refer people to them as well.
Yes.
That are mobile in other areas. So I would start there to research.
And the big thing is you're going to want to find somebody who has got a good reputation and who will support you over time and who will warranty the cells and the batteries and will kind of advocate for you to the manufacturers if things go wrong. Because even though it's been 5 years, this is still pretty cutting edge, bleeding edge stuff. There are, at the higher end, there are some systems, some manufacturers that are doing much more integrated systems. But they're not available as easily retrofits to existing RVs. So they're going to the RV manufacturers, and some of them are building in fully integrated systems with alternators and inverters and charging systems and everything all designed to work and talk to each other. Volta Power Systems is one that's doing some really interesting stuff in that regard. They actually have access to battery chemistries that the general public doesn't have access to because they're tied to the automobile industry. There's a few others that are doing, if you look at the super high-end coaches, you'll see some custom lithium stuff. If you've got the budget for that, if you're buying a $1 million RV, spend the extra $200,000 and get the lithium installed from the factory. Or even if you're like, actually the Road Trek has a lithium package.
Yeah, actually,
They have
yeah.
a lithium option.
Yeah, we have friends with the Road Trek that got
Yeah.
lithium from the factory as well. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that can be done differently and better if you're building an entire system from scratch rather than trying to retrofit. So keep that in mind.
All right. Jerry asks, since a very few solar controllers handle lithium, which ones do you recommend? And the solar controller is not what is talking directly to
No, but you
your
still
lithium.
want it to be programmable. So
Yeah,
not a lot of solar
programmable is key. Yeah.
Yeah, programmable is key. We used two separate controllers. Now we went with the Blue Sky solar controllers, which you used back in your tab days.
Yeah, we used Blue Sky and the Tab and the Oliver. We designed that in, and then now we have Victron solar controllers, and Victrons are fully programmable as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The key is fully programmable. You
Yeah.
want to be able to program the absorbed voltages, the absorbed times,
Yeah.
the float
Yeah.
voltages, etc.
And they
That's
should
the
be
key.
fairly easily programmable and not something that you have to
Whip out a Windows computer
Right.
with the,
whatever.
Right.
so
Yeah.
Victrons might not be easily programmable, but it's
Well, ours we can actually program on the little interface, which is quite nice.
well, actually, the Victron you can do it now with Bluetooth.
Yeah,
but,
right.
but it's still a little awkward. Yes.
Yeah, but just like we used to have a Morningstar solar controller in our previous setup, and that would have worked as well. The MPPT 60, for example, that would work. Programming is a little more difficult.
It's a little clunkier.
It's a little
Yeah.
clunkier in the Blue Sky, but,
And-
and it has some disadvantages, but that would have worked as well.
If you're investing in a great battery system, you probably also want to have a good inverter. You want a programmable inverter or charger that can charge it and work with it well. Don't skimp on the solar either. I mean, if you're
Right.
if you're going to go and put a lot of money into your electrical system, do all the parts right. You maybe phase it in over time or something, but think through all the parts. And
the combo of solar, a lot of solar, and lithium is a very
Right.
powerful.
You can't have
Count.
too much.
you can't have too much
There's no
solar.
such thing as
No,
enough
you really
solar
can't, yeah.
or lithium.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions of how much do you need to do this and do that, and
Oh,
you need to
yeah.
start with doing a energy audit of your needs and calculate out what your use cases preferred are, and then add extra to it because there's cloudy days. There's
Right.
Yeah.
It's never
There's
enough.
shady. There's a little bit of shade. There's a little
Right.
bit. Yeah. So
And-
you
and-
have those edge cases.
And actually, where lithium actually has some of the most potential is in really small RVs where there isn't physically a lot of space.
That's very true.
That's the only way to get a big battery bank in a small Class C or in a camper van or something like that. Is in the size of what would have been just a dinky little battery, you can get a sizable amount of power. So put as much lithium as you have space for, unless you have
Space and budget. Whatever,
unless
yeah.
unless you have a big rig where you've got more space and you know what to do with.
Right.
Yeah. Not like us.
Yeah, we
surely.
started. Okay, we started off with 600 watts of solar, and 4 GPL4 CTs, 220 amp hours.
Yeah.
Batteries, 220 usable, and 600 watts was chosen because that was at the peak of the summer. That was the maximum power. That was our usage. But we neglected to take into account
the rest of the
the
year.
corner cases,
Fall,
So
spring, and winter.
and with the aging and like the lead acid batteries under cold weather, that's when we really ran into trouble.
Oh, that was like the worst case. Yeah.
So sun low in the sky, it's 20 degrees outside. Your 220 amp hours are now 100 amp hours,
And you'll never get them fully charged.
Yeah.
and you'll never get them fully charged.
Yeah.
So now we're at 600 amp hours of lithium, and
1,500 watts.
They had to make a bigger solar system than us,
1500
More
watts.
than that.
because we have 1,400 watts. Yeah, 100 more than us, again.
And honestly, we could have gone bigger, and I don't think we would have regretted that.
Not much
No.
bigger.
All right.
I don't know.
Okay, so Chuck says, how do you measure the capacity of your lithium array, and what do you use for a load to measure with? And we get our numbers off our Victron inverter, right?
Well, our Victron BMV battery monitor measures amp hours, very specifically in and out, and so we see charge up to 100, and then actually our typical load is I'll run the air conditioner for 2 hours, and then maybe the convection oven for a while. It's like trying to put a big heavy load on it. If the capacity would actually be higher under less load, because there is still voltage
Little bit,
sag.
yeah, little
Well,
bit.
and that's actually one of the things they've improved in the batteries since is they have less internal. The lithium doesn't have the Puchertz loss, but the internal buses have got heftier, so there's less voltage
interesting.
sag.
Okay.
So yeah, the batteries have gotten better internally, just their internal wiring. So
just with your battery monitor, you can just amp hours. And
yeah, and it would be better and more scientific to have a set fixed like 100 amp load or something.
Yeah.
But
Under the same temperature conditions.
Yeah, under the same temperature conditions and stuff. But nobody's paying us for lab results, so I'd pay attention to our batteries, just in general, and have my rough feeling for what seems right, and then occasionally we'll do it at set experiment with, just the air
Yeah,
conditioner.
basically we go with, how is it feeling? Are we feeling like we're being constrained?
Well, and just I'm watching the how the voltages are.
All right. The gallivanting girls say, with the fast charge time, so you can put a lot of amps into the pack at a
Yes.
time, would you recommend lithium without solar and just using a generator to recharge?
Quite a few systems, actually in the marine world, that is becoming
Very
more and more
common.
common
Yeah.
because they'll hook a big honking alternator onto the engine, so they might be charging at 200 amps. And just with your 1 or 2 hours of engine time, you'll top up your batteries
Yeah.
every day just from your normal engine usage and keep your batteries fully charged. So if you've got a way, particularly off an alternator, if you've got a way to put a huge alternator on, that is a good way to go, actually.
Yeah,
And-
you
and-
just have to have controls so that you don't overcharge.
Right.
You cannot overcharge them, so you do have to have
A
have to
smart
watch
alternator.
it. Smart alternator, or you have to watch it and shut off the charge.
Yeah. And there's actually some people who've also done systems because most if you're using a generator, most generators put out AC power that then has to go into an inverter charger that turns it back into DC to charge the battery. So there's a bunch of inefficiency there, and you're going to be very hard pressed to find an inverter charger that is much more than 120 amps or so. I mean, ours is one of the biggest there is.
Yeah,
so ours is 125. Yeah.
125.
But there are DC generators, and that's actually, we know a few people who've designed their systems. They've not put in an AC normal generator. They put in a DC generator, only puts out DC power, won't run the air conditioner or something off the generator, but it puts out a whole lot of DC, all that power without that extra wasted conversion. And so that's a way to go too.
I could see in a small van or where you're very space constrained, a little quiet Honda 1000 with some lithium.
Yeah, but a Honda 1000 is not going to put up much power. Not
True.
Not enough to charge fast.
Not fast, but it's quiet.
Yeah, very quiet.
Yeah, but you could hook up the alternator during your driving. I mean,
As well.
Yes.
and the nice thing about lithium is you don't have to fully charge.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So you could just put in an hour of charge and then say, okay, see
Yeah,
how
this
it
is what
goes.
I can do,
And then, put in
yeah.
a few hours.
Yeah,
the
generator
next day
hours are
or-
over, but I can get
Yeah.
through the night on this, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So, all right. Marcia says they're considering installing their lithium, and I'm assuming the inverter as well, underneath their bed, but they're concerned if there's any electromagnetic field concerns with this equipment.
Oh. Yeah, I don't really think so.
The batteries are basically, it's DC power, so
It's
there's
DC.
actually
Yeah.
it's inert, but the inverter is actually a pretty complicated thing. Most inverters have fans and or a little bit of electrical buzz.
Like they're noisy, they create heat. So I would definitely recommend the inverter not being under the bed.
It depends on
Depends.
it depends on space constraints. There might
Right.
be you might be in a situation where that's the only arrangement you have. And I have to say the inverter's not having the inverter in the bedroom has not been catastrophic. I mean, most of the time we don't hear it unless it's pulling a really heavy load, and most of the time it doesn't bother us unless we're trying to run the air conditioner.
Right.
So I wouldn't rule it out as a possibility, but it you know it's
Keep it in mind. Ours is actually under our bed, but down 2 levels. So it's down in the cargo
Right.
bays, but under our bed. And if it's under max charge and there's no other noise in the RV, I can hear it. Victron actually has a way you can wire in a night mode switch onto one of their auxiliary pins that will basically say, don't charge super fast at night, when you flip the switch on, so that it'll dial the fans down and make the inverter silent. It'll just then take longer to charge if you're trying to bulk charge.
Yeah, we know several people have had lithium installed that have put in an Airstream, for example. And the most common installation is under the bed.
yeah, because that's the only
It's
space.
the
That's
you have.
about the only spot. And I don't... And
It's
if
been
any of you are out there,
fine.
you can comment, but
Yeah.
I haven't heard a lot of complaints
No.
about the inverter under the bed being a big noise source.
Yeah. And at night, generally, you're not
Or fields.
doing heavy charge. You're not.
I mean, her
running
question was
heavy
about
loads.
EM fields. So
Oh yeah,
I don't
EM fields.
think
Yeah,
that's a big...
I don't
So-
think
I
EM
don't think
fields
it's a
are a
big
biggie.
concern.
But then again, that's not something I heavily research either. So.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's a
something
good
that.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that's on my concern list.
So we don't
There's,
really know.
Um,
Long answer.
Long answer.
we don't know.
Oops, sorry.
All right. Okay. Joy asked, being that most people will have a limited on-roof space, is there a general rule of thumb to determine the optimal battery capacity and usable amp hours for a given amount of solar? So in lead, there was always a kind of a recommended balance. Would you guys feel that there's a recommended balance between number of amp hours versus solar on the roof?
I don't know. I think it changes with lithium. I don't know if there's an answer.
Yeah.
It's just the more you can.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
the
I
most
mean-
you can. I mean, I remember with lead acid, it was always about 100 watts to 100 amp hours, right? Was,
Right, and
was
I-
kind of the balance.
And
but
I don't know that I feel that I have that sort of general rule
No.
of thumb with lithium.
Well,
I mean, really, what you have to do is measure how much energy you want to be able to use in a day, and then
Right.
take into account where are you going to be using your system at. Are you going to be in the desert Southwest in the winter when the sun is low and you have short days? Or are you going to be using it in the summer up in Canada where you have like super long days where you can get full charge at midnight?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's where some of the installation experts can kind of help you work through that a little
They
bit.
can help you.
Absolutely.
They can help you size it.
Yeah, you can't make a mistake by going too big. There's no downside to going
Yeah.
bigger as if you can afford it and you have the space for it. Some of the rule of thumbs with the lead acid was actually that you needed, because the lead batteries, you really wanted to have the solar get them to 100% every day.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes
That's
the
where
rule
it
of
came
thumbs were
from.
actually trying to oversize the solar just to make sure that the solar can always keep up with the battery capacity. With lithium,
You
Doesn't
don't
matter.
have that.
if you're running at a deficit every day, so one day you're at 90%, the next day you're at 80, the next day you're at 70, the next day you're 60, the next day you're 50. That's good. You might make it all through an entire week before you have to go for a drive and charge or run a generator and charge. So you don't have to think about that deficit nearly as
Yeah,
much.
that's a good point. Like when I think about lithium, I think of the design point is how many days without solar,
Am I going for?
Yes.
without generator, without the alternator, do I want to be able to last?
Yeah. You have to
That's
think.
to me the more important
Right.
design point with lithium.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
then-
I don't think it's a general rule of thumb. You have to think through how you want to use your system.
Yeah.
All right. Jerry asks, would we all go with GBS cells again?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know any different.
I
so.
mean, I don't know. I like I like the fact that they
I like
have
the
good
pretty blue
support.
color.
I like the color. No, yeah.
As far as what's available to general
Normal
people,
Yeah.
people.
GBS is it that for a while there was Balcon, and they actually have some really great cells for large capacity.
They did.
Very high quality cells, but Balcon went out of business. The cells are still
Yeah.
available, but in China, and there's not a really good distributor in the U.S. again.
Right. There-
Calb is available in the U.S. There's been so much demand for lithium is finding the distributors that seem to have a good constant supply, and that's where actually I think Elite has earned a ton of points. Is they've been around for 5 years, longer than 5 years. We've been known them for 5 years. They've never ran out of stock. They've always been able to get the batteries. The price is exactly the same as we bought them for 5 years ago. They haven't gone up in price. They haven't gone down in price. It's basically exactly the same stuff. It's gotten better than what you get for that price, but the same exact pricing.
And I do like the fact that they have the sense boards, they have the system. You can get the whole system, and they've done a lot of work to make sure it all works together seamlessly, and so that takes a lot of, I think, the stress out of it.
Yeah, and then if you want to take it up to a higher level of integration, higher level of stuff, Victron has got a good supply line, and you know, they've got more advanced EMSs and more advanced potential ways to tie into the inverter and everything. AM Solar is dealing in the Victron stuff where you can get it directly from other dealers, but AM Solar is kind of focused on taking it to the RV world. So Elite or Victron would probably be the places I'd start.
Yeah, I think those are two of the best recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions on either if you kill the batteries or when they reach their end of life. Do we know what the disposal is of them?
I actually don't. No.
As I understand it, the lithiums should be theoretically very recyclable, and I think actually Elite had some sort of information on their website about like a way to dispose of them and return them and stuff.
It wouldn't be like a standard lithium battery. I mean,
I
like
don't
on a laptop.
know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would not put it in regular trash. I would.
No,
definitely not.
And
It's a battery.
And I would assume some communities have some sort of battery disposal or hazardous
and I
material
wouldn't
disposal.
actually dispose it with lead batteries either, because you don't want to intermix with the lead recycling process, because lead is very recycled. So if you get to that end of life, figure it out. You know, do some homework, call the manufacturer, have a manufacturer who will support that.
Yeah.
Okay. George and Julie ask, with our inverter and the boosting, do you notice that it has to boost a specific minimum amount, regardless of the actual load? Our Victron seems to require a minimum of 600-ish watts.
Oh, we've got a little message.
It's to pop up again. So far away. Broadcast interrupted. Uh-oh. Let's see. Come back. Come back.
I put the hotspot to charge, right?
It still says we're back. It was just a glitch.
Okay, glitch.
Glitch.
Sorry, glitch.
You might want to repeat that question.
I gotta find it again. There's a lot of questions that were covered in the chat that I'm happy to go through.
Okay.
Okay. Have you found that with your boosting inverter that it has to boost a specific minimum amount regardless of the actual load? Their Victron seems to require a minimum of 600-ish watts.
Yes, that's something actually kind of annoys me about the Victrons. Is they don't do a small boost particularly well.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, if our load, I've got the inverter set to not use more than 15 amps and we need 17, it'll drop down to like taking 11 from the wall and 6 from the battery. You know, it all balances out in the end, but it doesn't do a very good job of I need a little bit extra from the battery. It'll take less away from the wall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. When your batteries are fully charged, do you stop charging or do you hold a float charge until the sun goes down?
Stop.
No, well, the solar holds it a float charge, but so
which essentially stops it charging.
Yeah. So the float charges, we have actually very low float charges. Yeah. So effectively, the battery, and you can see this actually on the battery monitor. There's no current flowing into the battery, so it's not charging anymore, but it's floating below that level.
Yeah, it's actually not float charging. It's just kind of drops it, and that's it.
Yep.
Any opinions on Outback inverters?
They have a great reputation. I've not. Did they get bought, or are they still independent?
I don't know if they get bought. They make apparently very good solar controllers as well.
Yeah, Outback has got a good reputation. I've not actually heard anybody who's done anything with Outback though in several years. So get a current opinion from somebody, because these companies change.
Yeah, I think the Winds had an Outback solar controller.
Yeah, but that was
in their RV.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but did they have programmable solar controllers? I don't know about the inverters, but I researched their solar controllers for a while, and they had very good reputation.
Yep.
But they're big.
So they are big,
They're physically very big.
Yeah.
Like 80 amp was the smallest one I found.
Yeah, but they're also physically big.
They're physically. They're not.
I remember that too. Yeah. Our solar controllers are little things.
Okay. Minnesota Steve asked. He's asking about our Victron Color Controls GX monitor.
Yes.
He's wondering if you find it reliable and if you would recommend it.
I absolutely love it. It's so
cool.
beautiful to just see that nice visual display, and I love being able to pull it up on my phone from anywhere. I could pull it up
It
from here
is
if I wanted
quite
to.
It's
pretty,
great.
yes,
And
it
see
is.
the electrons flowing in and out. They've actually just been adding tank displays, so it'll be able to display your RV tank levels if you do the integration work to get it talking to your tank level meters and stuff. So there's all sorts of cool stuff that it can do. So if you're into that kind of geeky cool stuff, I do recommend it. Yeah, it's just, you be prepared to do a little bit of your own. Either find somebody like AM Solar, they do installs of it. It can be a little complicated to install and configure.
Okay. Thoughts on you? Lawrence asks thoughts on reusing junked electric car batteries.
There is one guy. What is his?
Really?
There's one.
Some
Yes.
people are doing it.
Yeah.
Very
If
cheap.
I mean, our batteries, the GBS cells, are used for electric car
primarily
conversions.
hobbyist electric
Yeah.
cars.
Interesting.
Oh,
Again. Interrupted again. You might be having T-Mobile glitches.
Do you want to?
Okay, we've been talking for over an hour, so we should probably wrap this
Okay.
up here soon.
Yes, and at least
we
we
asked about
okay.
mobile internet.
Yes. No, it seems maybe
We
it's actually
seem to
just.
be having mobile internet.
But it
problems.
seems to connect immediately after, so I wonder if actually Livestream is just having a memory leak and it needs a
Okay.
reboot. But okay.
Okay.
So car batteries, there are people who've done this. If you know exactly what you're doing, if you're an electrical engineering type, the car batteries are designed, they're like 200 volts, 144 volts. If you know how to reconfigure that to be a 12-volt battery, which is a big job, you need to know exactly what you're doing. It can be dangerous, particularly at high voltage. You need to know exactly what you're doing. You can do some really cool stuff and get a lot of power cheap by buying junked Chevy bolts and Prius batteries and
Interesting.
stuff.
Goodness.
But don't attempt this unless you are exactly comfortable in
Yeah,
what you're doing.
you need to be engineer level to be doing that
Yes.
sort of stuff.
The-
And the guy is. He's
He's
a
a retired nuclear physicist, and he knows what he's doing. He's got a good blog on it.
I'm picking out. There's a bunch of questions on there. A lot of them are getting into very specific case scenarios, which we're just not going to have time to evaluate here. There's one that's about this long
gosh.
that I can't even read it.
Too big for the screen.
I'm sorry, folks, if we're skipping your questions, but we really can't address specific individuals in this. So I'm going to go with, since we had talked about this question and preparing for this, is can we share some of the high level pricing, the cost for lithium and solar? And I think the range that we came up with is expect for a workable installed lithium solar system, low end 5,000, high end 15.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, 5 to 15.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it yourself and you go with a smaller system, then you might be able to get it for about 5,000. If you want to have help and go with a design system or a larger
Big system,
then you're looking at about 15,000 or maybe even
and that's
more.
that's pre-solar tax credit.
Remember, you get a tax credit.
Yes.
If you install your batteries,
And if you install your batteries at the same time as your solar, you can write it all off.
Yeah.
one invoice and you get 30% off.
everything.
If you
It's
split
really
it
nice.
up over years, you can't as
Right,
much.
right.
You guys added solar and lithium at the same time. We're able to write that portion
exactly.
off. When we did our solar install, because we did our solar install 3 years after we did the lithium, we could only write off the solar panels on ours. We could not include the lithium. And we really thought about at the end of that 3 years of upgrading our lithium system
using
at the same
that
time.
opportunity to do a full replacement of our lithium.
So that we could get the solar, include that in with the solar credit. But we ran out of time that year and just couldn't. And when Balcon quit, that's about when they quit.
That's
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. And then
yeah.
Balcon slowly went out of business. Right.
And that tax credit has been extended. Last year was extended for another 5 years, 3 to 5
nice.
years. So.
Yeah. It's a really
No
nice
rush.
credit, yeah.
All right, I think we're going to call this one a wrap for the lithium batteries summary.
Okay.
Thank you guys for joining us, and I have no clue what our next topic will be, but it'll be something.
This will be the end of the archive, right?
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.